Yeah, this is, as you said, a request.
I can't believe this is the start.
Yeah, it's gonna record this. It has to wait for them. Yeah, it's not. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Premananda. You just gotta send us a request.
Whichever way works.
Very well.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Good evening.
Hare Krishna. How is the Hari now?
It was great. It was great. I've got Jade Prabhu here with me.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, Hyrule Jade. Kind of saw half his now.
We just came from the beach actually, so it was really.
The beach. So nice.
A lot of people are really receptive at this time.
Yeah.
Right now, we stopped and we had a conversation with one guy. He's actually studying piano. He's a professional pianist, and he just finished his degree. And he was getting very thoughtful and introspective during this lockdown period. And he had a lot to say. He was looking for people to meditate with. Can you believe it? And there we were, meditating on the beachfront with everyone. So it was quite fun.
You guys always seem to attract these people, like, you know, these deep, honest seekers. It's like really incredible.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
So were there a lot of people out there on the beach, or was it kind of quiet or busy?
Yeah, no. Today was pretty good, even though it's a little windy. It was actually really windy. People were doing kite surfing. I don't know if you've ever seen that before, but funny enough, I was out there and I saw my friend's dad, who is 65, and he was kite surfing, and he happened to just come up onto the shore and see us there. So that was pretty cool. And then, yeah, there were a lot of other people, a lot of kids and a lot of folk that kind of meet us up at one point of the beach, and then we sing with them. And then what ends up happening is when we sing with other people, they catch up to us. And then eventually it just becomes an amazing kind of scene, something from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where so many people come together and they're just coming out of their homes and houses and just joining on the beachfront chanting. It's really, really special.
I have to say, I missed that.
Is it not happening in Durban?
Not for us who are staying at the temple. We're mainly still sort of in lockdown.
Oh,
but there is Kirtan happening externally. So yes, we're hearing these rumors of Kirtan.
Yeah. But I mean, the Food for Life and Devotee Care, they have some Kirtan at the programs that they call.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
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 So I guess some people are still joining in, but I guess we can start because it's sort of like an informal program. It's just like a chat.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, that's
and
cool.
A little bit of music and things. So we're very happy, everybody, that you're joining us for this Bhakti Yoga program this evening, which is titled Bhakti Journey. And we have very happy to have Premananda Kirtan with us today. And some of you may have met him.
And
Jade. Yeah, as you can see, we like trying to squash ourselves.
Yeah, I know how it is. Yeah, it's cool.
It's so awkward. And then, he's a monk, he's a musician, and he's based in Stellenbosch, and he's traveled in Europe, in Poland, and India, and of course throughout South Africa.
Australia.
So we're very...
I came to Durban once.
You did come to Durban once. It was really nice. We should do it again sometime.
Actually, that's where I met Indradumna Swami. It was in the Durban Rath Yatra 2012.
Oh, wow. 2012.
And oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're very happy to have you online with us today. And Rukmini and we were thinking, we would have these evening programs twice a month on campus, on Howard campus in Westville, and it was like candlelight, kirtan and supper, and just like a lot of exchanges of like how people are keeping and like some bhakti philosophy and everything. And a lot of our students at this point they're studying online, and so they're not actually on campus anymore. So they expressed to us that they miss Kirtan so much and they miss those programs. So they really actually wanted something. So we thought, we'd connect with you and actually be able to share something beautiful with them through some music.
Sure.
So yeah, I guess to kick it off, like it's just an informal chat. But if you'd like to share with us how you actually came to practice bhakti and what exactly was it that actually connected you to it and that you found so inspiring?
Okay, sure. Thank you. Yeah, well, firstly, thank you very much for setting up. I'm happy we could be together to connect in this way. Yeah, for me, it all started around about my first year as well, my first year of university in 2008. And I had a friend whom we shared our spiritual life together, and we were on the journey, on the path together. And he had stumbled across the center in Rondebosch. There's a Hare Krishna center just there by the train station, and he found some people. I think you might know Vraj Krishna Prabhu. You may be familiar with him. So he had first met him, and then he told me about these people who he phoned me one day. I was at my neighbor's. I was house sitting my neighbor's house, and he phoned me and he said to me, I was just at this house, and there were these people, and they were dancing around the circle of a little child. But it was so amazing. It was so cool. I was just like, whoa, man, because he was getting into a lot of weird things, and this sounded like something like one of those weird things. So I was just like, it's okay, man. Maybe that's just for you. But then in time, he one day brought me along, and I met some of the monks that were there at the time, and it was a very very strong impression at first. I was really taken back by a way of life, you could say, a culture that really put in the practice of one's ideals and philosophy, because oftentimes you look around the world, people have so much to say about how we should live or how the world is or how the world should be, but to have a way of life or a process to realize that knowledge, that is something that is often missing. Prabhupada, he says that a philosophy without a kind of a religion or a cultural application is just mental speculation. And that same thing applies when a religion doesn't have a scientific or philosophical basis. Then it can just become sentimental or fanatic because you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. But when you have all these ideals, you want them to represent through a lifestyle. So for me, I just got to find people who really express that, and I found that to be very very inspiring. And over the years, I got involved in the Bhakti Yoga Society of UCT. Isn't that amazing? So, Bhakti Yoga Society Durban. And I very quickly got involved. And the very interesting thing was that I signed up for the Bhakti Yoga Society in February 2008. But I never went. I never went to any of the meetings.
Oh, you were one of those.
I was
those people getting the emails, but never really checking it out and sharing. And then I had met the people at the center in Rondebosch, and I was kind of becoming more and more familiar with them and familiar with their cuisine. And then after into the second semester, I realized that, wow, there's a society on the campus, and I'm registered for it. And I just start become more part of that. So it was quite nice. And then gradually, as the years went by, I just got more and more involved, and I saw that the real change in spiritual life happens when one takes some sense of responsibility, for your life, for your service, and ultimately for others. And that's when a true transformation started to take place as I got involved in these various ways. And it was really nice because actually it was the university that sponsored me a bursary to travel all the way to India on a pilgrimage experience. They had they donated.
Wow.
It donated about 20,000 rand so that I could go to India and have an enlightening experience in the East. And you know, the only thing that I had to do was I had to document that experience and share it publish it with the university. So that was great because then I got to share it, which is obviously what I wanted to do. So that worked out really well. And so when I finished my studies, I then went straight into the pilgrimage experience. And I haven't stopped traveling until now, until the last 6 months, where life has dramatically changed. But it has been a very blessed last 8 years, especially meeting His Holiness Ndudumna Swami and all the adventures that we've had with the Viva Cultura troupe and so many places that we've gone through the performing arts and sharing the process of bhakti through that.
Oh, it's quite a journey.
That's a phenomenal story. I actually never heard it. It's quite nice.
And then your affinity for musical expression, was it always with you, or did it just become enhanced when you actually came in contact with Bhakti?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Thanks. Well, yeah, my affinity for musical expression was there when I was 9 years old, and I worked out how to. Have you ever seen the movie The Titanic? I'm sure you know the Titanic.
Yeah.
There's this moment where they're sitting in the front of the peak of the boat. It's really epic and romantic. But there was something very special in the music that I heard. I was moved. I was young, but I could tell that there was something almost mystical about the sound vibration. It was like emotionally very moving. So what I did was I tried to work that out on the piano, and it took me a couple of days, but there was a big change when I could work out what I was hearing. And I think for a musician, there's this mystical experience when they can really express what they hear, taking that sound vibration and then putting it through their own processing and manifesting it through their instrument, whether it be the voice or some kind of instrument. And I think that for me, that was the start of my musical journey. And by grade 9, when I was 14 or 15, I realized it was going to be a career path, largely influenced by a band called Coldplay, I must admit. They're very much favorite of mine. And then I realized that if I wanted to do music as a career, I would also need to study it and really get into the scene. And I started to really get into jazz. Jazz is a very intellectualized art form of music that can be quite complex for people who don't know it, but it's also very technically developed. And if you can get your head around and technique around the jazz, you can feel around many other genres. So I kind of tapped into that when I was 16, and then I got into that after school and started to take music more and more seriously, and it became a solid career path. But then there was obviously an interesting time during my second year of music. I was studying jazz piano, and I realized that I don't want to do this anymore because I want to be spiritual and stuff, and it was a very interesting change for me because I was having so many deep, profound devotional experiences, and I was like, I don't want to practice piano. That's just so boring and like a waste of time. And, I got to be like 100% focused and Krishna conscious, etc. And so it was very interesting because I felt like I needed to leave my studies and join the temple and just run away from home. But that was difficult because the temple was 20 minutes away from my home, and I just don't know. It worked out so well with my parents. So I had a bit of a struggle over my second year trying to find a balance between being a student, finding myself as an artist, and trying to be, practicing bhakti. But eventually it worked out, and I think by my third year I could find a mature balance where I could see, oh wow, this music can actually be used, in a nice way. And it was only, but really when I met Ndudumna Swami, though, that I could understand it could be used beyond my own imagination. Because I think that is really the power of the spiritual master, that they engage us in the process of bhakti and really help us reach our full potential. We see Arjuna's on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he's a warrior. And his success at the end is not that he fights he's not just because he's fighting, but he's fighting because Krishna told him to, and he's doing that because that is the instruction coming from Krishna. And oftentimes when the instruction comes, the ability to perform it comes with that. And also the transcendental nature of our bhakti opens up, no matter what that instruction comes. And the instruction could be according to your nature or not according to your nature. But I was fortunate enough that there was a place musical karma, as it were, and I feel very grateful, because I would never have embraced this level of musical production, especially in the last 5 years, if there was not some very significant spiritual cause behind it. So I was very grateful for having that opportunity, and to this day I can wake up with a very clear service when I have the name Premananda Kirtan Das. The dust part is the big part.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. And on your Instagram feed, actually, you have a little track called "The Greatest Story," and the lyrics are really beautiful and really deep. It's like an appreciation and an expression of gratitude to your spiritual master. Do you like to share with us how you came to actually write the lyrics for that particular?
Yeah, sure. Wow. No one's actually ever asked me. Yeah, it was around the time of his Vyasa Puja during this year, the year that we celebrate his appearance in this world. And to be honest, it's always been at the back of my mind. I was thinking, all these songs I've written for him, like in terms of for our theaters and for our acts and our shows, maybe 5 albums worth of content, but I've never written a song about him and about our relationship. And now, by the grace of the lockdown, I was sitting here with my keyboard and the mountains, and I couldn't go anywhere else. So I went into the music, deep into those to that sound, which I felt was the best offering I could make at the time. And specifically, there's a chorus in there, which is his melody that he sings in his very famous Indradyumna Swami Kirtans. And in those Indradyumna Swami Kirtans, they have the same tune, actually, every time. Yeah. I was speaking this morning with Wusa and telling how those Kirtans are the same melody every time. And, Ethan, my friend who plays the saxophone, we must have done over 500 Kirtans with Indradyumna Swami, but every time it feels new, another Yovanam, ever fresh, because obviously it's the spiritual nature, but that melody is very deep for us because, obviously we have a musical relationship with that tune, and it's the way in which the heart opens. Also, it's just a great tune if you want to get people moving, So I knew that I wanted to reach into this chorus that was, his timeless tune, but the lyrics are kind of a description of the greatest story. In fact, the greatest story is from a lecture that he gave about this great Bhagavatam. We find the greatest story, which describes the discussion between Parikshit and Shukadev. Can you see my show and tell PowerPoint? And Shukadev.
I have to put the PowerPoint a little higher. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay,
there we go. So this is the sages of Naimisharanya, and there's a famous lecture given by Indradyumna Swami where he speaks about the sages of Naimisharanya and their endeavor to really save the planet, save the world at this time, this dark age. And he was describing how the sages celebrate how Sutta came. Sutta Goswami is this great sage that spoke to them about the message of the Bhagavatam, of the story of Parikshit and Shukadev. And there's this very famous verse in the first chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, which it says that we have met yourself, the enlightened spiritual one. We have met the spiritual master by the will of providence, and you are the captain that will take us on this ship to cross over this ocean of nescience. And it is at that time that in the lecture that Indradyumna Swami said that this is the greatest story. The moment that the living entity meets the spiritual master, this is the greatest story, the real history, And obviously I was hearing that, and it was music to my ears, right? It was literally music to my ears and to my heart, because I realized this is something that I want to capture and share, because he's talking about the story that I share with him as well, you know, because as we, as aspiring, you know, disciples and students, we share that story with him as he shares it with his spiritual master. So I was very much inspired by that. I'm also very inspired by Bhagavatam itself. So it was very connected. So it started with that, the greatest story that's ever told. And the day that I met you, because the day that I met him, which happened to be a Ratha Yatra in Durban, of all the places, that day I met him, I had no idea that life would change so significantly. I mean, he's Indradyumna Swami, right? The Indiana Jones of the Krishna consciousness movement. He's just dashing and daring and courageously caring wherever he goes. That you could get a moment with him.
You just
right?
use that line.
You could never get a moment with Indradyumna Swami. And here we were, you know, in his room, and he was saying, you know, he's thinking that, you know, this thing that we do with the horns, we should do it in Poland. And I was like, I didn't know anything about Poland. I didn't know anything about what he had in mind. But I can say that it was a really enlivening experience. So that experience of the day that I met him, you know, it's the start of that great story that I translated into the song. And in the song, it also describes of the places that we went and the travel that took place, because we really did go, you know, from country to country, from Kirtan festival to festival, and all throughout, you know, we were connected through this Kirtan. And in fact, the day that he gave me initiation, the ceremony as accepting me as his disciple, he said that I'm going to give you a Kirtan name. You know, he said, I'm going to give you a Kirtan name because that is how we know each other, and that is how our relationship. And it was at that time that he then said, you know, he gave a definition of Premananda Kirtan Das, and he said that the servant of those who find ecstatic love in Kirtan. And I found that quite interesting. That was his definition. And at that time I realized, well, that's it. I'm his servant, you know. And it's also nice because I can roam about the world, and anybody that's enthusiastic to chant Hare Krishna, I can be their servant in the service to that Kirtan experience as well. So, you know, collecting all of that kind of that kind of experience, we try to share that through the music or through the lyrics. So that song is definitely something a little more personal. And I've got to be honest, I'm not really a singer. So I don't usually record myself singing like that. And that was one of the first times. I mean, I have different mock versions I usually sing for other real singers. But that one I decided to really just sing it because it was from personal heart. And I also know that many of the other disciples share a similar sentiment. So I was really trying to cultivate that feeling. And that song is quite unique because it has the chorus of the famous Indradyumna Swami Kirtan, but it also has the horns of Ethan Smith in there. And those horns are quite unique because they're like iconic to the Indradyumna Swami Kirtan sound. So it was really nice that we could complete that offering. And I felt, yeah, it's definitely one of the greatest songs I could have ever and will ever have, you know, been a part of making, because to share the glories of the spiritual master is our responsibility and obligation, necessity, you could say. So that's the greatest story, coming from Bhagavatam, coming from personal experience, and from that wanting to give back in the best way.
It's such a beautiful story behind it. There's so much of depth actually behind it. And what's also interesting, I mean, earlier you described that you have sort of like a jazz kind of style, and also a lot of your kirtans are they're very like meditative, and you know, some of your posts have like gratitude meditations and things like that. So of course, like in Bhakti, there's different expressions that we use to convey our feeling and our emotion and our meditations. And music is definitely the medium that you use. So what is it that actually goes into all of your practice that produces that sort of music with so much of meditation behind it?
Have you ever heard of halava?
10 points.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, halava is a big part of it. I won't lie. Halava really. I actually have a huge pot of halava right on our dining table. I can bring it for you if you don't believe me. But the principle I will try and communicate is that if you take something like halava, a very integral part of the Krishna consciousness movement, um, it is that taste by experience that we feel. Prabhupada says the test of the pudding is in the taste, right? And we have to know that spiritual life, it's susukam kartam avyayam, it is joyfully performed, and it is through the practice of this bhakti that we can perceive the results directly. It's not just some Hindu granny wisdom. It's not just some kind of thing. Do you want to bring the halava? So it is something
We can't
pretty
eat.
and serious, and we see that you can verify that yourself, and I feel like at every step of the way in our process, you really have that opportunity, whether it's through the Nam Japa that we do every day, or whether it's through the hearing of the transcendental literature, or whether it's through the service that we share, or whether it's through the relationships that we have. There's always this moment to plug in. And for me, I just try and find a way to always be finding that access point. I'm not going to give you some secret to success because I'm a struggling sadhaka, but I can say that the mercy and opportunity is always available in these varying means. And I certainly can say that over time, there comes an impression or a build-up of trust and faith in that process. And even if a day comes, which it may come, where some dryness or static, is there in our spiritual life, we still have that. So,
We still have halava. Is that it, Premananda? Is this like the Stelli's halava with dates? Or is this like the double halava with real sugar?
This is special halava. It's also a natural sugar, and actually there's papaya. It's papaya halava. Have you ever done that before? So there's papaya that was grown outside our bedroom window. It's a bit dark now, otherwise, but there's this papaya tree that was self-manifest over the years. And it's funny because we never ever took a papaya from that tree until just a few days ago. And I've never made papaya halava until yesterday. And what do you know? So this papaya halava is a great example. I will keep away from the bee bag, but it's a great example of how one can become enlivened in the process of bhakti, and it's always available. And if that day comes, where you're not finding the taste in the holy name or in the practice, halava is always there. And there's only one thing. There's only one thing that's greater than halava, right? And that's when you can share halava with others, right? So another aspect that really brings our spiritual life is the process of outreach. When we can share that experience, that is most pleasing to the Lord, firstly, and secondly, then we can perceive, the magic of this process having its effect in others' lives. And really, today we were out on the beach, and it was just so amazing. We got to the beachfront, and there were about 8 kids, and they were right there, and they were just collecting different things like to cycle on the beachfront, but they were so enthusiastic to sing and chant with us. And then we chanted quite a bit with them for like 10 minutes, and then we all went together down the beach with them, singing along, kind of like a Pied Piper kind of scene. We're going down the beach, and what was amazing is they were really into it, but then people were seeing, wow, look at the experience of this chanting is something so tangible. There's these 2 guys, in yellow and orange and white, and then all these kids singing, and then they feel like, oh, we have to participate too. So they started participating, and it was quite a scene. And then we met that pianist I was telling you afterwards. We met him, and then what would happen is we'd go down, and then people would see that they would meet us again down at the beach. And it was just a really kind of practical example of how if you put yourself out there to share this experience with others, you will see those results. And I can say that being involved in that outreach activity has really given me a certain kind of life from a day-to-day perspective. Krishna even says in the 18th chapter that for one who shares the secret of Bhakti and this process of Bhagavad Gita, with others, they're very dear to him. And I can say that is that really helps, to be actively doing that, to be engaged in the mission in some sort of it really makes a difference for your own, like I said before, for your own sense of responsibility, and just to practice how other people like Halibut too. So that's probably the I can give you.
It seems like you do have a secret for success.
Well, I can tell you, it's a Halibut secret. It's a Halibut secret.
It's awesome.
Could you share a little bit with us about being a music director at Viva Cultura? And
oh yeah, about music. Yeah, so that's a very good question, because when I went on the tour for the first time, I thought I was just coming for the Harinams. I'm going to play my horn and be on the beach and just serve the Kirtan. But as our movement has it, we're folding services, where you sign up for one thing and then somewhere else. So what the experience I had there was that over the years, I certainly could recognize there was a need for the music, particularly to be developed in a more emotional way. But I wasn't getting involved yet. I was just kind of keeping my distance. But then one day, my friend, he was involved in something called stage managing. I don't know if you know what stage managing is, but stage managing is when you have to arrange the event. So you have to make sure all the artists are ready. You have to make sure the actual show is going to run. Am I still there?
It's a hard job.
Yeah. You are.
Kinda. You're loading. There, you're back.
It's a bit.
We can see you now.
Are we good? Sorry about that. The mountains. So I was saying that my friend's name is Srinam. You guys can still hear me?
Yeah.
So Srinam, so this is very interesting. So Srinam, one day, he had this heavy responsibility of making sure the show was on, making sure that the artists were ready, making sure that the sound guy has the track, making sure that the stage is clean, all these things. And he was getting overwhelmed. So he decided to one day, he took the pen, I don't know if I have a pen, but he took the pen and he came to me, and I was on the rooftop of Surat temple. It's in India. And we were having an India festival program. And then he took this pen and he said, "Prem, please kneel down." And I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" He said, "No, just kneel down." I kneeled down. He knighted me with this pen on each shoulder. And it turned out that was the pen of the schedule board, So then he said to me, "Prem, I believe that you are ready, And it was a very interesting kind of way of getting me involved. Prior to that, he had kind of tempered me and asked me various questions to test me to see if I knew them. So what happened was he knighted me with this pen, and then he
Okay. He knighted you with the pen?
As it happens, I then... Yeah, he knighted me with the pen. My first introduction into the kind of management area of the stage show was in India. And in India particularly, the stages there are made out of bamboo, and there's a lot of live wire, and there's a lot of crazy. So I had a kind of really special introduction into that service, but at the same time it also kind of prepared me for for what to come, what was to. And then as I got more and more serious about that stage show, I realized that I wanted to like kind of upgrade it in the way that I saw would go into a new direction. And that's when I read, I want to be involved in the music from a compositional point of view. And it actually started with writing a play about the Bhagavatam, about this Srimad Bhagavatam, about the story of Parikshit meeting Shukadev and the wonderful dialogue. The same friend, Srinam, we had the conversation one day about finding a unique method to bring across the Bhagavatam message through theatre. And we wanted to do it in the style that, the Gita style, the Bhagavad Gita of Bhakti Marg Swami, that kind of poor man's physical theatre style. So we spoke a lot for many, many nights, late into the night. And then over the period of a month or two, we conceptualized this story of if I told you that you had 7 days left to live, what would you do? And that was the introduction, from an old man asking the audience. And then he says, ages past, a great man, a wonderful man was once faced with this very question, but his choice of action wrote the pages of history. And then he goes on to describe Parikshit, who came in as this valiant king, and the qualities of Parikshit and how wonderful he was. And then it describes how he was also fierce on the battlefield, but then one day he was thirsty after his hunting expedition, and he came to this hermitage of a sage, and he asked for water, but the sage did not respond, and then he garlanded him with a snake, right? And this is very interesting. And at that moment, then the boy came to find out about this, and he cursed that king, and all of these things that are taking place. I've now had an opportunity to translate through the music, and that was the most enlivening experience for me artistically, because isn't it just amazing if you think about it? What was the soundtrack the moment Shringi cursed Parikshit? What was the soundtrack the moment that Shukadev entered into the arena? If you watch Moon Takes Off, or when Batman do the same thing for our heroes, for our characters. So all of that a thing, and that was a few years ago, and then it gradually just became our more primary offering, to be writing plays and theatre soundtracks for all of our shows. So then that developed, and now it's become like one of my main services, basically the music aspect. Yeah. But it started off with the stage managing, and then it evolved into writing theatre plays, and then it became, just the whole musical directing developed from there.
Wow. And it's quite extensive now. It's like evolved into something quite incredible.
Yeah, for those who don't know, maybe you want to just tell us a little bit about the Polish tour, like just the basics for those that may not know.
The basics of the Polish tour. Yeah, well, the Polish tour has been going on for 30 years, and it's a real cultural extravaganza. In Poland itself, it's branded under the Festival of India, and it shares the culture through the performing arts, through many tents that celebrate, the culture through the cuisine, through the dress, through the questions and answers, through cooking demos, through astrology, through yoga. There's about 13 different tents, and all those tents surround an actual stage, and that stage is where a lot of the magic happens, where the kind of performance-based and artistic expression comes of Bhakti in so many ways. And that stage show is 5 hours long, and every day for 6 days in the week for 2 months, we travel along the Baltic Sea coast, which is on the beachfront, and we have a mobile stage, which is like a transformer. You ever seen that movie Transformers? Yeah. They're driving a car and then they turn out to be this like Godzilla thing. So like that is our stage. It's actually a lorry, and then that lorry opens up by the press of a button. It opens up into this huge stage. It's actually a 15 meter by 10 by 15 meter, very large stage. And on that stage, you can You can hold aerial silks. You can hold aerial rings.
Wow.
Hi there, Faye. Faye, hey, there's Faye and Ren. Oh, nice to see you guys. Ren Hines. So, you know, that's really big. And then one of the things we have are regular theaters, and then like children's shows where all the kids come on the stage. We also have a martial arts man and Indian Bharatanatyam. And so there's a great performance-based celebration of the culture. And then in the middle of it all, Indradimna Swami gives a discussion on the wisdom of the Gita. And at the end, it culminates in an amazing Kirtan experience where all the audience come together and sing with us. So that's like the primary offering in the day. It's a 5-hour show. But the way we do the marketing for that happens during the afternoon, where we're on the beach with the Harinam party. And the Harinam party is like a live musical train that, you know, marches down the beachfront, and there's lots of instruments, there's balloons, there's all sorts of singers, and they're really sharing the kirtan, and then doing some market. They're distributing about 5,000 to 8,000 flyers every day. So lots of people get to know about it. The whole town, village is aware, and then they come that night, and that's a real solid experience. You know, the best part at the end, we actually get the kids on the stage and we ask them what their favorite part of the show was. And then they speak about, I loved the Magic Man, or I loved Dina Dayal, the martial artist, or I loved, you know, the saxophone player's hair. And then they dress them up. They dress them up with the saris, you know, they wrap them up and they look like little Christmas presents kind of floating off of the stage afterwards. But it's really special, and it's a real magical cultural experience, because you have a situation where people would otherwise not be in touch with that spiritual aspect, but by the power of the arts and by the power of culture, one can really you know, bypass all these various different limiting ideas, that prejudice that people have, and you can really, by the power of this experience, let them decide for themselves. Because another big part of that program is the halava and the samosas, because, you know, they're just, you can't argue with a samosa, right? So, you know, all those parts, when it comes to sharing spiritual life, we really have to emphasize the positive, because it is only by the positive that we can overcome the challenges we face and really have that tangible transformation. So the festival experience is like a big injection where you can really get that. And it's been happening for 30 years on the Baltic Sea coast. It's gone through varying forms, and even in the time that I've seen it, it's taken on various shapes. But it's also traveled in other parts of the world. But mainly Poland is the home of it. And it's really Indradimna Swami's main offering to his spiritual master.
So beautiful. Yeah. I think we'll have one last question before a little bit of music, because the time actually just went by so quickly. So we want to know the story about the self-realized trumpet. Right?
The self-realized trumpet, yeah? Yeah. What do you know? What do you know about it?
Well, I mean, you had your one post part one on Instagram, but then the follow-up story of how you guys got it out of the store, that hasn't come
wow,
yet.
Well, sometimes I don't know if anybody reads those things, you know. So I was just kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to write part 2.
You have to now.
yeah, I'll do that. Okay, yeah. So in the beginning, you know, we went to the store, as two musicians do in a city center. You basically go in there and you know, you play a lot of things that you know you'll never buy. The story of our life. At the same time, you know, I saw this flugelhorn, and I'm telling you, it was shining. It was shining like when Arjuna goes, you know, to the heavenly planets and he acquires some weapon. It was really pretty celestial, and something that I thought, you know, I would never get. But then, so I didn't actually. I mean, that didn't happen. I walked out of the store and there was nothing. So, but 1 year later, the same thing. We were just finished the Polish tour. We were going to go to India. We went to our pilgrimage, which is basically the visa embassy of India in Warsaw, where we got to take darshan. And there we were in this embassy and getting our grant for the visa. And we had a few hours left to the day. So naturally, we're going to go to the places that we always go. And we go back to this place. And so we're there. And it just so happens, as we arrived, that the instrument was still there. You know, that same instrument. I mean, I don't even know if it moved, to tell you the truth. It was still there, almost the way that I had left it. And but one thing had changed. One thing had changed, and that was the price. The price had significantly dropped, and all of a sudden, something that was seemingly impossible became possible. And another thing that had recently occurred was that my other trumpet was malfunctioning. So I was in a place of genuine need, and I was about to travel to many countries, and I really needed to make a plan. And so I then started calling up some people to see how invested they were in the Sankirtan movement, and how if they wanted to be a part of this journey. And it was actually Viva Cultura that were very supportive. Nandini, the lady who is the manager of it all, she felt like it was very worth it. And it's actually, believe it or not, the box that I'm putting my phone on is the horn. I'm not going to take it out because I could do a whole show and tell. But the thing is that I always use this thing in service. So here somehow it's the actual it's holding my phone up right now. But yeah, that was how it happened in terms of how it was acquired, and it was really a big step, because at that time, you know, one thing that happens in life and spiritual life, especially when Krishna does benedict some good fortune upon you, that's actually when things get really serious, because now you're like, okay, well, this just happened, you know, this just happened. Now I got to start. This just happened, and now I got to get real with it. So it really then took my own service to the next level, and I'm surprised over the years how that has unlocked my whole all my good fortune, because I've had such an interesting love-hate relationship with this instrument you wouldn't believe. But what's more important is that is how my spiritual master wanted me to serve, and I followed through with that, and I'm not regretting it. And it survived. You know, this horn has been on parikrams around Govardhan Hill. It has been to my it has been, you know, in every, like, China to America to Australia, everywhere. So it's definitely, yeah, it's got its part to play in the whole.
Definitely got transcendental power invested in it.
It's so lovely. It was really lovely chatting with you and hearing from you. It was quite enlivening and very inspiring as well. And we hope to have more programs like this again. So
Yeah,
if we can, we're not sure what the audio quality may be like, but if you could share a little bit of music with us and everybody that's viewing.
After speaking so much of it, everybody wants to hear something.
Okay, sure. Yeah, you know, the saying goes that, yeah, sure. They say that you can talk of honey, but you got to dive in. So I appreciate that. How much time do we have left on this live?
We've got 15 more minutes before.
Minutes or so, yeah. Cool. Okay, so Jade is with me. He's going to play the drum and he's going to sing. I've usually seen that online call and response doesn't work so well, but we also know that the transcendental sound will travel through, and whoever gets hear it and participate will be their good fortune. So I'm going to sing a kirtan. As you guys were saying, that the meditative thing is really one of my favorites. I just personally find that the progressive element of kirtan is very powerful, especially for people who are coming to that for the first time. If you sit down with somebody in a room of 20 or 30 people, and many of them have never chanted before, you really want to take them on a journey before you just like, Nitai Gola Hari Bol, so with that in mind, I always try and warm up to it. Also, because sometimes the voice needs to warm up, and if you start in a certain kind of fashion, you can really develop the kirtan. So, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Signal.
Thank you for choosing that tune. I really missed it.
Yeah, that was a shout out for you there. But yeah, that's one we did very, very much in Stellenbosch. It's like characteristic of our little kirtan culture here. Especially if you have a didgeridoo, you can play the didge and it drones throughout that whole kirtan. In fact, also have a really nice meditation on the power of sound with this kirtan as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. When you first started playing, I sort of heard the power of sound in my head in the background. It's really cool.
Well, thank you very much. I'm really happy, guys.
Yeah, it was a beautiful program. We think, like, it was quite inspiring, and I think we actually, we heard a lot about your journey in Bhakti, and I think personally I was definitely inspired. So thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing all of that. And I especially liked the story behind the greatest song, the greatest story. That was actually quite beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for the part 2 Flugel journey. I'll be sure to share that. Now that I know somebody reads these things.
Cool.
So we hope to have a program again with you, maybe sometime soon, online again, and maybe after, you know, when travel starts again, you sing on campus with
Durban
us.
always welcomes you, Prem.
Yeah, we are actually, or speaking to Jade, we're very much keen to come that side at some point, if the temple was just available. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we're looking forward to reconnecting, especially summertime is coming, and I'm telling you, people are out and about. They are very eager and receptive to this transcendental sound vibration, and we really need to make it available. And yeah, there's a great momentum in the world right now, locally, to be sharing what we have, and I think that we're at the forefront of that. So thank you, Bhakti Yoga Society, Durban, and you guys. It's really, really, really happy to
Hare Krishna.
be with you very much.
Jackie. Thank you so much. We actually like a few minutes away from an hour, so we're gonna get cut off. So thank you so much again for taking this time to spend it with us and everybody, and sharing so much of your meditations with us. So hopefully we have a program again with you. And until next time, Haribol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
You know, there's these really cool features at the bottom. Have you guys tried them yet?
we almost ending the screen. I don't know if I click cancel if you can.
No, can you check that out? I think like a monk is there. Wow, I just want to check this out quick, so we can test it. Green screen. Wow, it's pretty cool, eh? IG Live is evolving. Oh. Check it out.
Cool.
I know that.
We'll just have to end this video, but then we'll check those features out.
Yeah, otherwise I'm just checking it out myself. Thank you so much.
Oh, there's a time came up.